Hi, it's Dre Griggs of Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss embracing change and reinvention and retirement. Do you want to feel excited about your retirement? Do you want to feel confident and ready for the task at hand? Are you interested in being fulfilled and embracing lifelong happiness in retirement? If those are all things that are of interest to you, then we'll discuss those in this series of videos where we'll talk about that transition, not from a financial perspective, not from a health perspective, but from a mindset, happiness, and enjoyment perspective. There's three things that you need to do to embrace change and reinvention in retirement, and the first one is embracing positive aging. When I was talking with John, who is retiring from being a software engineer after 30 years, he was very concerned about his identity after he retired because he is a software engineer. He went to school for that. It was a very prestigious career, and it was something that he was really struggling with, where he would be like, hey, I heard that when you retire that you die right away because you don't have anything to do. And we can think of people that are high profile like that. Like I think of Joe Paterno, and if you don't know him, he was the longtime Penn State head football coach. And he ended up passing a few months after he retired. And I can appreciate that, but we really want to take a step back and say, okay, I don't want to go into retirement unless I know what I'm going to do. And so that transition can be very difficult. And we went through multiple transitions in our life. And the first thing that we really have to get our mind around is this idea of positive aging. When you look at the American culture and we say you need to be very productive, you need to make a lot of money, you have to have certain jobs where when you say something, people are like, oh, that's what you do. That's awesome. On the other end, when we talk about aging, what type of things do we normally say when we're describing that? We normally talk about being unhealthy. We normally talk about not using our talents. We talk about being alone. We talk about not feeling the best. Where even as a culture, you can sit back and say, well, in the American culture, we create nursing homes because we're trying to be very productive, and taking care of our aging parents is not very productive. Now, it doesn't mean that that's always the case, but that means that it can be the case. And I'll give you another example of how it's different in different cultures. So when I went to Nigeria with my father-in-law, I got to meet Nne, who is his mom, or my wife's grandmother. And she was probably 100 and maybe 3 years old, and she was still moving around. She was having a great time. But culturally in Nigeria, it's very important. It's very revered to be the oldest. So everyone celebrates you if you're the oldest, to the point that if we had an argument and I knew that you were older than me, I'm supposed to stop arguing with you because you're older than me. So I have to give you that respect. And because of how positive Nigerians as a culture see aging, they really aren't big on the nursing home. What is more common and what happened with Nne is you would have all of the children and maybe the grandchildren. So maybe you have like 5 grandchildren, and 4 of the grandchildren would pay 1 of the grandchildren to take care of Nne, where that person doesn't have a traditional job, and the other grandchildren pay that one grandchild a livable wage so that they're able to eat and take care of themselves and their family. And everybody sees that as a very respectful or honorable thing to do. In the American culture, for all of the things that we get right, I think it's fair to say that as far as our aging population, how we treat them, how we respect them, how we see them and revere them, that we don't always get that right. Even when you look at the Bible, in Proverbs 20:29, it says, the glory of young men is their strength, but the splendor of old men is their gray hair. Or Job 12:12 says, wisdom is with the age and understanding is in length of days. Or Proverbs 16:31 that says, gray hair is the crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. In Leviticus 19:32, it says, you shall stand out before the gray head and honor the face of an old man, and you shall fear your God, for I am the Lord. So the first step of us positively aging is understanding that it's not a curse. It's not a punishment. It is a reward. It is a gift that you have more wisdom, more insights, that you have more understanding of things. That's part of the reason that I serve people who are within 5 years of retirement, because just the conversations that we have, the wisdom and the experiences that you have had throughout living, I relish those. I enjoy talking to my parents or my in-laws. I enjoy talking to older people at church. I enjoy watching memoirs of people, reading their biographies. I'm someone who believes that wisdom is this ability to discern when it makes sense to take certain actions, that most actions do make sense in the right situation, in the right circumstance. Well, if wisdom is with the aged, in my mind, the only way to get wisdom is either making my own mistakes as I get older, which I've done plenty of those, and I've talked about some of them and I'll share more. Or I can take the smarter approach and listen to those who are older than me, who have done there, as they share their wisdom and insight with me, and that I'm able to share that wisdom and insight with you. So it helps me while people will look at me and say, well, Dre, you're not old enough to understand that. And I would say, well, you've only dealt with retirement one time. I've dealt with retirement dozens of times. So I believe I actually have more wisdom when it comes to the idea of retiring than someone who is older getting ready to retire who has not experienced that. Just like I can appreciate the wisdom and experience that you have had based off of your life, you should be able to appreciate the wisdom and experience that I have had based off of my life. So when you sit there and you have this positive outlook where you have this optimistic view that you know that the next chapter is going to be even better than the last chapter, that it is a glory, that it is an honor to be someone who is aging, well, then you would have a more positive mindset that you're not really tied to your particular career. In my mind, you're tied to the experiences that you have, the wisdom that you've gained. That's what you're tied to. Even when you talk about passing, whether you're someone who believes in reincarnation or you believe in a heaven or some sort of an afterlife, the only thing that you get to take with you is normally going to be your memories and your mindset and your understanding and the growth that you have had. And so in my humble opinion, that's what you hold on to, not your job, not your degrees, not your education, but you hold on to the impact, the experiences, and the memories that you've created. And so when you go into retirement, instead of you holding on to your education and your job, you hold on to the experiences and the fulfillment. And you'll realize that those go with you everywhere. That fulfillment is what you do with your time. In fact, when you look at happiness, there's lots of studies on positive attitude. It's something that's actually been studied a lot more lately. And there's one study that was done by Harvard. It's called The Positive Attitude About Aging Could Boost Health, which I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. So the study was 14,000 adults over age 50, and it found that people who had the highest satisfaction about aging, the people who felt the best about aging, had a 43% lower risk of dying from any cause over a 4-year period compared with those who were the least satisfied. And it also found people more satisfied with the aging process had lower risk for conditions such as diabetes, stroke, cancer, heart disease. They had better cognitive functioning. They were more likely to engage in physical activity and were less likely to have trouble sleeping. They were less lonely and depressed. They were more optimistic with a greater sense of purpose. Just by having a positive outlook on aging, it significantly improved your health, your outlook, your optimism, and your overall feelings. And that's not a one-off. There's another study done by Johns Hopkins Medicine, and they found that people with a family history of heart disease who had a positive outlook were 1/3 less likely to have a heart attack or other cardiovascular event within a 5 to 25 years than those with a more negative outlook. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below on something that brings you pleasure and something that brings you purpose as you're preparing for retirement. If you found value in this video, I thank you always for your time. Thank you for being with me. It could have been anywhere, and I don't take it for granted. If you found value, go ahead and like and subscribe so you continue receiving valuable insights on how to create your own wealth and retirement system so that you can worry less and live more. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.